Ever wondered what it's like to live inside a mind that's both a vast library and a hidden art studio? We're diving deep into the fascinating world of the Enneagram 5w4, where insatiable curiosity meets profound emotional depth. Discover the Investigator-Individualist, the unseen dynamics that drive their unique perspectives and sometimes mysterious retreat. Imagine someone who can spend hours absorbed in a concept, an idea, or a theory, yet carry an inner world so vivid and emotional that very few people ever truly get to see it. That's the curious case of the 5w4. Ever met someone who seems to live in their own brilliant, imaginative world, constantly absorbing information yet sometimes feeling a million miles away? You might have just met a 5w4. On the surface, they look like classic thinkers, intellectuals, researchers, or deep observers of life. But underneath that calm, analytical exterior is an emotional undercurrent, a quiet artistic soul, and a longing for authenticity that colors everything they do. At their core, Type 5s are driven by knowledge, independence, and the need to understand the world before fully engaging with it. They often fear being overwhelmed by demands, emotions, or expectations from others, so they protect themselves by retreating into their minds. Their inner world becomes a sanctuary, a place where they can explore ideas freely without pressure. They collect information the way some people collect memories or experiences, believing that if they can just understand enough, they'll finally feel safe and prepared. But when that four-wing enters the picture, everything shifts. The individualist energy adds emotional sensitivity, creativity, and a deep awareness of identity. Suddenly the quiet investigator becomes not just a thinker, but a dreamer. Not just curious about how things work, but deeply reflective about what things mean. A 5w4 doesn't just want to understand the world intellectually, they want to understand their place in it. They are often introspective, poetic in thought, and aware of subtle feelings that others might overlook. Where a core Type 5 might detach completely from emotion, the 5w4 experiences a kind of tension between logic and sensitivity. They feel deeply, but they rarely show it openly. They can crave self-expression while simultaneously fearing vulnerability. They want to be seen as original, yet they fear intrusion. It creates this beautifully complex inner life that is often invisible to those around them, leading many people to misunderstand their silence as indifference, when in reality, they are quietly processing everything. Living as a 5w4 means existing between worlds. One part of them is grounded in analysis and rationality, while the other part exists in imagination and emotional intuition. They might spend hours studying philosophy, psychology, science, art, spirituality, or literature, not just to learn facts, but to uncover deeper meanings about existence. They tend to prefer depth over breadth, authenticity over trends, and solitude over superficial connection. They value originality not for attention, but because being true to their inner world feels essential to their identity. When others chase status, approval, or material success, a 5w4 is more concerned with whether something feels meaningful or intellectually rich. But this combination also carries challenges. Because they are highly self-aware, 5w4s can become painfully conscious of their differences. They may feel like outsiders, even in familiar environments. They often struggle with the feeling of being fundamentally misunderstood, like they are observing life from behind glass. They can long for connection, yet doubt that anyone could truly understand the complexity of their thoughts and emotions. This sometimes leads them to withdraw even further, building emotional distance as a form of self-protection. The fear of being overwhelmed meets the fear of being invisible, and they hover somewhere in between. Their retreat is rarely about apathy. It is about preservation. A 5w4 needs space to recharge, process, and refocus. Social situations can feel draining when expectations aren't clear or when conversations lack depth. They prefer meaningful exchanges that explore ideas, purpose, or introspection. When forced into environments where they feel overstimulated or misunderstood, they may shut down, drift inward, or appear absent-minded. But internally, the mind is still active, weaving thoughts, analyzing interactions, and storing emotional impressions for later reflection. Creativity is often a quiet but powerful theme in their lives. While some express it through writing, art, music, or philosophy, others express it through unique problem-solving, innovative thinking, or unconventional perspectives. They may not always share their creative side openly, because vulnerability feels risky, but their imagination plays a constant role in how they perceive reality. Their thoughts are rarely rigid, instead, they see layers, metaphors, hidden meanings, and emotional nuances behind the obvious. Their identity journey is often deeply personal. A 5w4 may spend years questioning who they are, what they believe, and what makes them different. They search for inner coherence rather than external validation. However, this search can sometimes turn into existential doubt. They might wrestle with feelings of inadequacy, emptiness, or emotional distance. When stress intensifies, they may retreat even further into isolation, creating a world that feels safe but lonely. Their independence is both their strength and their burden. Relationships with a 5w4 can be fascinating, but they require patience and trust. They don't open up quickly, not because they lack feeling, but because their emotions run so deep that sharing them feels like exposing something sacred. They value authenticity and connection far more than social performance. If a 5w4 lets you into their inner world, it means you have earned a rare level of trust. They communicate best when they feel respected, unpressured, and free to express ideas at their own pace. Emotionally, they experience life like quiet ocean tides. From the outside, things may appear still, but beneath the surface there is movement, reflection, and sensitivity. They may struggle to express their feelings directly, so their emotions often appear in subtle expressions, creative work, or thoughtful observations. They are the kind of people who can write something that feels deeply personal yet never explicitly reveal themselves. One of the biggest unseen dynamics of the 5w4 is the inner conflict between detachment and longing. Part of them wants to withdraw to maintain independence and mental clarity, while another part craves depth, intimacy, and emotional resonance. They want to be known, but not overwhelmed. They want connection, but only if it feels genuine and safe. This creates a paradox where they may appear aloof while secretly hoping someone will understand them without forcing them to explain. Their strengths are undeniable. A 5w4 brings originality, insight, curiosity, and creativity into everything they do. They see patterns others miss, they reflect before reacting. They think deeply rather than impulsively. They can thrive in research, philosophy, psychology, technology, academia, art, writing, innovation, and any field that values depth of thought. They make sense of complexity and often bring unique perspectives to discussions and projects. But they also benefit from learning to reconnect with the world instead of staying isolated in thought. Growth for a 5w4 often means trusting that they don't need to be fully prepared before engaging with life. It means realizing that they do not have to solve themselves before being worthy of connection. Allowing small moments of vulnerability can open doors to connection that they feared would overwhelm them. Their emotions don't weaken their intellect, they enrich it. In healthier states, a 5w4 becomes more grounded, present, and emotionally integrated. They retain their depth and originality, but they are no longer ruled by fear of intrusion or inadequacy. They can share their insights, trust meaningful relationships, and allow themselves to be both thinkers and feelers without conflict. They transform from silent observers into wise contributors. The unseen beauty of the 5w4 lies in their ability to explore the world not just through logic, but through soul. They remind us that intelligence doesn't have to be cold, and sensitivity doesn't have to be fragile. They are proof that a mind can be both analytical and poetic, both curious and vulnerable, both distant and deeply human. So the next time you encounter someone who seems lost in thought, quietly creative, and mysteriously withdrawn, you might just be seeing the hidden landscape of a 5w4. A mind that observes life from the shadows, a heart that feels more than it reveals, and a spirit that seeks meaning in every corner of existence. If you're a 5w4 watching this, your depth is not a flaw. Your curiosity, introspection, and emotional richness are rare gifts. The world needs your insight, your perspective, your creativity, and your quiet wisdom. And even when you retreat to your inner world, remember that your presence still leaves an impact, whether spoken, expressed, or silently felt.